So we're going to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Okay? And I've just put the title as Godliness. No? So our divine ambition in God's grace. How do we pursue godliness? So we are already into this 7th chapter. And so we're looking at this place called Corinth, or the church in Corinth. I know that many of the leaders who have spoken before, and last week Atul has spoken, we have an idea about what this place is about. Corinth was a very influential Greek city in the beginning, and then it became a Roman colony. If we summarize what this society is about, it is a society that is really independent, because it is prosperous, self-made, very prominent, wealthy people existed in that place. Very immoral, okay, idolatrous, and it was also very indifferent in terms of the people. They were, because of the affluence, they didn't care. They would have their own leaders, their own heroes that they would follow, and that's why most of the things that were happening outside were creeping into the church. And we would have seen that in the first chapter. Some followed Apollos, some followed Paul. So they were very indifferent because of their affluence. Now, that's the place of Corinth. Now, Paul had founded this church towards the end of his second missionary journey. Okay, the second missionary journey. And so when he moved on to other places, he heard that there are a lot of problems in this place. And so he wrote many letters. Two of these letters are here, 1 Corinthians and 2 Corinthians. Scholars say there is one more letter. They didn't have manuscripts and connecting things to put it into the canon. But these two books are. But mainly it had a lot of issues. One of the good things that we see is that Paul bringing about this aspect of sexual intimacy. I'm glad that Parola was sharing with us about anger. The moment we share about these critical things, that means we are bringing these things to light. Okay, and also then we come to a place to be open to discuss and share and be open to say that yes, this is something real that is there. And if you're struggling with that, then this is the place. And this is the best place, in a sense. God's presence and God's people, to talk about these critical things. And so, Paul is talking about our bodies, and he's saying that our bodies are sacred. Now, he's saying, we are trying to understand that this is the culture in that place. That means the culture in that place is that when people would come to marriage, they would have already had relations with different people. And so when Paul is addressing the church people, he is saying that you need to be very clear. It is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. The first part he speaks about the body, the sacredness of the body, and then he's talking about this marriage relationship. We need to know that this union is sacred. You cannot take it casually. So he's saying in verse 8, now to the unmarried and the widows I say, it is good for them to stay unmarried, as I do. But if they cannot control themselves, they should marry. For it is better to marry than to burn with passion. To the married I give this command, not I, but the Lord. A wife must not separate from her husband. If she does, she must remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. And a husband must not divorce his wife. To the rest I say this, I, not the Lord. If any brother has a wife who is not a believer and she is willing to live with him, he must not divorce her. And if a woman has a husband who is not a believer and he is willing to live with her, she must not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband has been sanctified through his wife, and the unbelieving wife has been sanctified through a believing husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, as it is, they are holy. But if the unbeliever leaves, let it be so. The brother or the sister is not bound in such circumstances. God has called us to live in peace. How do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? Again, it's a little bit important for us to understand the context, because like many of them had heathen practices, had different faiths and religious convictions. So it is most possible that in a family only the wife knew the Lord, was a believer. It is most possible that only the husband became a believer. So how do you respond in this marriage relationship where one person is a believer? Paul is saying in the next slide, man, memories, materials. So don't, even in this marriage relationship. Okay? So your focus on relationship, man, and memories, creating good memories. So let's not put all our eggs into either of these things, because all will pass away. We need to look at it in the light of eternity. And these things, relationships or memories or materials, can give us joy to an extent, but our final joy is in the Lord. Okay? So it's not that these are bad, these are sacred, these are good, but still we cannot say, in this is my hope. We'll be disappointed. God is our hope. That's the eternal perspective that we need to have. Now, so I just want to just say that like many times we are able to identify the bad things, the wrong things. But many times we are tricked or we are deceived by the good things. Okay? So it's not just the bad things that we need to be away from, but we need to be aware of the good things that can take us away.